Hey guys, Joan Rips here with another Spire chat. Today I want to talk to you about the Ironclad card Searing Blow. Searing Blow costs 2 energy and at first deals 12 damage, but it can be upgraded any number of times. And the upgrades just increase its damage. So it goes up by 4 for the first upgrade, then 5 for the second, 6 for the third, 7 for the fourth, 8 for the fifth. I can't show you all the upgrades on Searing Blow here, but in general, I'd say that if you get this card on the first floor, let's say, it's reasonable to have it dealing 80 damage or so by the end of the game. Assuming that every chance you have to upgrade it at campfires, at events which upgrade cards for you, etc., you're picking Searing Blow. I don't think the Searing Blow is particularly good. It's not a card I'm excited to take, even at the start of the game with many campfires ahead of me. At Ascension 15, I don't think this card is good enough to get you there. So I want to explain why I don't think it's a particularly strong card, and I want to talk about other ways in which you can use it where it may be okay. Anyway, I'll give it my best shot. So, starting out, Searing Blow is, like, it's such a simple... You can actually talk about the Searing Blow deck, I think, and it's like a simple enough deck that you can actually just talk about it. Searing Blow... Like, the idea is that you just upgrade Searing Blow at campfires. And in order to do that, you want to avoid losing health, so you probably don't fight elites. And then the other idea is that you want to like draw and play Searing Blow as much as possible in fights. So you're not going to be adding a ton of other stuff to your deck. You'll add some card draw, you'll add some defensive cards where possible, but keep in mind that you don't get to upgrade them, and you probably don't have relics to assist you in using them to create mitigation. And this deck, it's possible for this deck to win, even on Ascension 15. There are very large issues with its abilities to do basically everything. It's not a very good deck. So if you get Searing Blow up to, like, see, you get it up to 100 damage, even. Your Searing Blow hits for 100. So against an Act 3 boss, you need to play Searing Blow. If you get vulnerable on guys, you probably need to play it, 4, 5, 6 times, depending on what boss you're fighting exactly in order to win the fight. So you have maybe a 6 or 7 turn kill. Depends if you're if your deck has a bunch of cards like Offering, maybe you get stuff going faster. Something like a Headbutt can be very useful to control where your Searing Blow is. There are some relics which really help a lot. Other card draw like Battle Trance will help. Yeah, so like, sure, you can kill enemy Act 3 bosses like turn 6, 7, whatever. And that's fine. I think that's sort of par for the course for a strong offensive deck for Ironclad. I think like limit break decks often achieve that or better. Body slam, corruption sorts of decks can achieve very similar speed. There are other decks which have much better mitigation, which don't need to kill as quickly, and so those decks might take, 12 turns to kill, but yeah, I mean, that's a good speed for a deck which is focused mainly on offense, and I believe it's faster than usual for those boss fights. Look at the actual numbers. It'd be interesting to look at. So for Ironclad enemies, I have mean turns on Awakened One, Donu Deka, and Time Eater are 7.7, 6.3, and 9.0 respectively. So I mean, against Time Eater, I often deliberately play slowly. Sure, that all sounds pretty reasonable. And I think Searing Blow, does that well, or maybe a little bit better as a card, which is a deck which is focused primarily on offense. So the issue isn't really that. The issue is that like, how do you block when you never get to use a campfire to upgrade one of your block cards, and when you are getting fewer relics than usual to assist in your mitigation, because you're avoiding elites so that you can stay healthy to upgrade Searing Blow campfires? That's really difficult. That's just not easy to work out, and that's where this deck struggles, I think. If you can get it healthily to the boss fights, it's a deck that can kill the boss fights, but like, this is a deck that will just die in hallway fights. And there are other decks in the game which also die in hallway fights, but they can sort of get by. Like, sometimes I'll build silent decks based around poison combos with Catalyst, for example. I'll show you the actual card. And I'll silence down here. So if a silent deck, like, just plays Deadly Poison and Bouncing Flask and Catalyst, upgraded Catalyst, you can get a huge amount of poison on an enemy and kill it. And this works against bosses very, very, very well. You can, like, kill bosses on turn 3, and it's great. But the problem is your deck may be absolutely terrible at blocking and may not be able to handle killing, you know, hallway fights at all. Also, hallway fights are often AoE, and this strategy is a very single target. So that deck can actually, you know, just rest at campfires, because you don't need nearly as many upgrades, and you're okay. You don't really need relics either, so you can put together some pretty strong wins with a combo deck sort of like that. Searing Blow, though, is a deck which struggles in hallway fights and also can't really heal at campfires, and so not getting enough relics and just, like, it just really, really struggles. I think the way to play Searing Blow, like, if you're trying to build Searing Blow as an archetype, is, sure, you take the card early and maybe you spend your first 2 campfires on it or whatever, but you try to kill elites as well to get strong relics to build around it. And if you don't, like, get there, you can just, this is only one card in your deck, right? And it's not that bad a card. If it, like, is 2 energy, deal 21 damage, that's, like, not that bad. You don't have to stick with Searing Blow if you discover, oh, the relics I've got are not supporting this, I'm not able to kill elites, I'm having to rest at campfires, etc. You can easily just go into a regular deck and have Searing Blow as a card in it, just as a damage source. I think it's really important to be able to be flexible with a card like Searing Blow in that way. I talked a little bit about Rampage, how I often use Rampage in Ironclad decks just as a card which is, you know, pretty good at killing the Act 1 boss and can help out in some elite fights too, but I don't force myself to build a deck that's only playing Rampage over and over again. It's just one of the cards in whatever deck I end up with. And maybe I do end up with a deck that plays Rampage a ton, but more likely I end up, you know, finding some strong relic interaction or card interaction or something like that and ending up doing that. And I think you can do something similar with Searing Blow. I don't think it's completely unreasonable. It's not something that I do ever, basically, because my experience with Searing Blow has just been that it doesn't happen enough to be worth even trying. But if you're going to try, I would recommend, you know, trying to get it all, trying to get the elite fights and the upgrades on Searing Blow, trying to have everything work great for you. Because I don't think that if you don't go after elites and just use your campfires to upgrade Searing Blow, you're actually ending up with a strong enough deck to consistently win the game. I just think it doesn't block well enough. So there is one other thing that Searing Blow is really useful for that I want to talk about as well. And this is something that may come up if you pick it up early and get 2 campfire upgrades into it and then realize this isn't working, I'm going to deviate into a strength build or something like that. Searing Blow can be upgraded in combat with armaments. Upgrade a card in your hand for the rest of combat. And so Searing Blow is one of quite a few ways that Ironclad can exhaust down to a very small deck in the middle of a combat, and then use that small deck to generate massive amounts of output. So you got this Searing Blow card in your deck, and it, starts off dealing 21 damage or whatever. And over the course of the fight, you're just mitigating with cards like True Grit, maybe drawing cards with cards like Burning Pact, and you're getting rid of a ton of other cards in your deck. And you might end up with, 2 armaments and a Searing Blow and, I don't know, a Shrug It Off, maybe? And you just keep blocking. Your armaments are keeping on leveling up your Searing Blow, and then you play Searing Blow for 200 or whatever. Play Shrug It Off to draw Searing Blow again, play it again. If you got 5 energy, that would be cool. And you can win in this way. Now, in general, building a deck that tries to win like that is not something that I'm excited to do. However, it can be really easy to find some sort of combination that does that. And sometimes your deck isn't ready to just be a full-fledged, real big, strong deck at the Act 2 boss fight in particular, especially if you're fighting against the champ, who you don't want to just be hitting with damage all the time because you don't want to proc his second phase. Once he gets below half health, he starts hitting you really, really, really hard. Like, I'm talking like 42 times 3 sorts of attacks. I saw one of those a couple of days ago. So, especially at the Act 2 boss, I've found that sometimes having something in my deck that lets me exhaust down to just a combo which scales and kills can be really nice. And Searing Blow is one of those things that can work. The last win that I got with Searing Blow was actually on a Twitch chat run, where Twitch chat gave me a Searing Blow and gave me a couple of armaments. I think this was like an Ascension 11 or 12 or something. We were taking Twitch chat's account all the way up to Ascension 15, and in these runs, Twitch chat gets to vote on which card we pick. So the deck typically was getting full of just random memey cards. Every flex goes in the deck, every heavy blade goes in the deck, and how the deck functioned was in that way. Basically, there were a couple of True Grits and Burning Pacts, and we just like got rid of all of the chaff during fights, got down to Searing Blow and armaments, upgraded the Searing Blow a ton, and, hit the enemy for 200 a couple of times. So I think that's a really cool thing to keep in mind. It's actually somewhat common for me to target specifically the Act 2 boss with Ironclad with some sort of deck shrinking combo strategy, which I think will be too slow to use in general. Like, against Time Eater, it might just be bad because it might rely on, say, one of them that's quite common is Dropkick. If you get down to a deck with just 2 Dropkicks in it, you are, playing just Dropkicks infinitely. You Dropkick and it draws the other Dropkick, and then you Dropkick with that Dropkick and it draws your first Dropkick. So one of them's to like exhaust down to Dropkick and Bash, for example, and create a copy of Dropkick with Dual Wield perhaps. But that doesn't work against Time Eater, and maybe that's too slow against Donu deck and too awkward with the dazes they put in the deck. And against the Awaken one, maybe the Awaken one hits too hard. And, that's fine. It doesn't have to be your final strategy, but there may be some point during the run where it's very strong. Another strategy is, again, with Dual Wield, to just create a ton of powers, like a ton of Feel No Pains or a ton of Metallicizes, and use those to basically outblock what the Act 2 boss can do. Sometimes you can create these powers faster than the Act 2 boss is actually scaling up to beat you with. Yeah, there are a few small combinations that you can exhaust down to in some of the Act 2 boss fights, and Searing Blow is one of them, and it's something to keep your eye out for. Searing Blow plus armaments. So, overall, to recap, I think Searing Blow is not super strong because it struggles so much with mitigation, and because giving up your campfires to just upgrade this one damage source is such an expensive thing to do. But I think that if you're going for it, it's really important to remember that if it isn't panning out, you don't have to commit 100%. It's just one card. You can move on to something else. And I think it's also really important to remember that if you've done that, or if you're in Act 2 and haven't worked out how you're beating the Act boss yet, but you have a bit of exhaust in your deck with a couple of True Grits to get the chaff burned out and you have an armaments, Searing Blow is an option as something that can scale in a fight over a longer fight. And that is somewhat unique and it's something to keep in mind. So, of course, you can just like, having said all this, if you just have a spot weakness, like that does the same thing so much easier, obviously. Demon Form does this, Limit Break does this. There are lots of ways for Ironclad to do what I'm talking about much more easily than the ways I'm describing. Sometimes you just don't get those cards, and you might want to find a different way to do it, though, and Searing Blow can be one of those. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the vid. Got to chat about Searing Blow. It's a really fun card. It's a card that I've played with quite a bit on non-Ascension and have tried on Ascension. The last time I did a non-Ascension win streak, I actually lost with the Searing Blow deck at 18-0, so I haven't drafted it since then. And I feel like I've sort of exhausted all the game space that there is around this card. It's just a very simplistic idea, Searing Blow, and I think ultimately it isn't that good. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I have links to Discord and Twitch chat and stuff below the video if you want to come hang out. And I will see you guys next time with another Spire Side chat. Bye-bye.